Picture this. It's Monday morning, you're sitting in your pipeline review, and your rep says this 500K deal is in proposal stage, 80% probability it'll close this month. But then 3 weeks later, radio silence. The deal hasn't moved, the buyer isn't responding, and now you're scrambling to find a replacement revenue to hit your quarterly number. Sound familiar? Here's a brutal truth. Your CRM stages are measuring out what you're doing, but not what the buyer is thinking. That's exactly why your forecast accuracy is like flipping a coin. Hey, I'm Marcus Chan, former #1 sales director who managed 110 reps, delivered $190 million annually. And I've seen this problem destroy quarterly forecasts, kill sales momentum, and get really good sales leaders completely fired. But I've also seen the fix. And when organizations implement what I'm about to show you, their forecast accuracy jumps from 60% to 95% plus within the first quarter. So today, I'm going to share with you the advanced deal progression framework, the exact methodology that separates elite sales organizations from everyone else fighting for scraps. Now, this isn't another CRM hack. This is a complete reimagining of how you track, progress, and forecast deals based on buyer psychology, not seller activity. By the end of this video, you have an 8-stage progression system that tells you exactly where each deal stands out and what needs to happen next. No more guessing, no more surprises, and no more missed forecasts. So here's the core problem. Most CRM stages are built around what salespeople do. For instance, discovery equals we ask some questions. Demo means, hey, we showed them our product. And proposal means we sent our pricing. But deals don't close because of what we do. They close because of what buyers decide. So that's why I came up with the advanced method. And before this, I was doing what most people did, which I fell for the same mistakes, and my forecast was always completely off. Once I started doing this new method, my forecast actually went sky high, especially as an account executive, especially as a sales leader as well. It also allowed me as a sales professional to do different things in my deals that actually move the deals forward. So ultimately, in a nutshell, it tracks buyer progression, not seller activity. And advanced stands for 8 different things. We have A, which is acknowledged problem, D, documented issue, V, validated by the team, A, authorized by an executive, N, narrowed to external, C, chosen as a vendor, E, established timeline, and D, deal terms finalized. And let's do a deep dive into each stage. So first off, let's call it stage 0, which is the A, acknowledged problem. And at this point, your deal in this stage is about 10% probability of closing. And this isn't, they mentioned a challenge. This is a documented acknowledgement of a specific costly problem. So for instance, a red flag is, hey, we should probably look at this someday. A green flag is, hey, this security breach costs us $2 million and we need to prevent it. And the exit criteria out of the stage is the buyer commits to documenting the problem with their team. This is especially true with mid-market and enterprise deals where there's far more complexity. And then we have the next stage, which we'll call it stage 1, and the D of advanced, which is documented issue. At this stage, you're about a 50% probability of closing because now we have written evidence. That could be an email, it could be internal memo, it could be a project brief. It's something tangible that says this problem is real and needs solving. This may be a business case you actually co-write together, which is very, very powerful as well. And the key validation, is there an actual verified document? And more importantly, not only is there a document, have we gathered 3 or more stakeholders as part of the situation committee that confirm they've also read it and also agree with it as well? Because once we do that, we can move to the next stage, which is stage 2, the V, validated by the team, in which at this stage is about a 25% probability of closing. At this stage, multiple stakeholders in their company agree this problem impacts their executive level metrics. So it's not just one person's opinion anymore. It's not just one person complaining. It's multiple people within the organization saying, this is a real problem. We agree with the problem statement. We agree with this written validation. So a critical test could be if you as a sales leader, if you were to call those 3 different stakeholders, would they all describe the problem the same way and agree this is a major priority to get fixed? Then we move to stage 3, which is the A, or authorized by an executive. At this point, you have about a 40% probability. At this point, an executive has officially sponsored solving this problem. They've said, yep, I own this. We need to solve this problem. And they have mandated their team to go with the evaluation. This isn't a speculation, it's a mandate, which means they also agree with this document issue, it impacts the highest level priorities of the organization. So for instance, a proof point is kind of like, hey, Jane, our CRO, asked us to solve by Q3 because it's impacting our forecast accuracy by X%. So if you think about it, even at this point, I have seen many deals die because we haven't actually gotten to this point of actually getting the executive sponsorship. However, in the CRM section, all C deals, we've already given the proposal out, and now we're just waiting to hear back from the highest level executive. But reality is, your chances of closing without an executive sponsorship are very, very low, especially in today's time where it requires more buying consensus, more layers of validation, and more people approving the actual end purchase. Now, assuming we have this nailed down, then move into stage 4 for the end section, which is narrowed to external. At this stage, it's about a 60% probability, and they've decided they can't solve this internally, and they've committed to buying from an external vendor, and requirements are defined. Because remember, their biggest competitor is not the actual competition, it's actually the status quo, them actually doing nothing. Because if they've been in business for a while, which is most companies, especially large organizations, they're getting the job done already. So it's easy to do absolutely nothing. But if you're in stage 4, that means they're saying, yes, we can't do this internally, and we must do it externally. And a good validation question is, hey, why did you rule out build this internally? Or what have you done already that hasn't worked? This tells you a lot about what they've done internally and why they're choosing to go external for the solve. Then we move into stage 5 and C, chosen as a vendor. At this stage, it's about a 75% probability. You're now the preferred vendor. They've stopped talking to competitors, and the scope reflects all the stakeholder input. The ultimate test is, have you stopped evaluating other vendors, and why are we the top choice? This is a really good spot to be in. However, at the end of the day, they might give you what's called the strong verbal, say, hey, we're going to move forward with you. But again, the deal is not quite done yet. That's why we go to stage 6, which is E, established timeline. Things are moving at this point because you're about an 85% probability, because that means you have implementation timelines put in place based on business outcomes. So it's not like arbitrary dates, it's set outcomes of a go live date, and there are milestones along the way to get to that point, and potentially even dates after the go live date for the implementation, backend support, etc. And the quality check is really the point of that the timeline is driven by a business need, not some sort of sales pressure or discount you're trying to push onto them. Then we'll move to stage 7, which is the D, deal terms finalized. This is about a 95% probability. At this point, the commercial terms are agreed upon, pricing is already approved, contracts in legal review, and you're in a really, really good spot now. And the final validation is all decision makers have confirmed the terms are good with it, and now you're just waiting to get that DocuSign back. So that is the advanced method, which is a very, very simple method. But let's talk about how to actually implement this strategy. What I don't want you to watch this video and say, that sounds great, and do nothing with it. So now let's talk about the implementation strategy. How do you actually take this and apply this to your own business? And the first step you want to do is, number 1, is you can literally just go through and audit your current pipeline using the advanced criteria. Literally go through each of the deals and see, hey, where are we on the advanced formula? And what steps are we actually missing? Because this will tell you quite a bit of what you need to do next to actually move the deal forward. The second thing is training or retraining your team and your reps on progressive questioning. That's advanced discovery, multi-thread, exec conversation, and so much more. You'll notice here in this whole framework, if you follow this framework, you'll notice if you're not progressing past certain stages within the process, it means your team probably lacks the skill. For instance, I was speaking with a $50 million e-health company this past week, and we're doing a deep diagnostic into their company, and we're already having lots of conversations with their teams, and we see inside their pipeline, they have literally $30 million in pipeline in like the proposal stage. They think it's going to close. However, when we actually started comparing it to the actual advanced framework, I mean, frankly, to be quite frank, it was a very, very small percentage that was even at the stage of even closing. Most of them had not gotten execs involved. Most of them didn't have multiple stakeholders. Most of them have a documented issue. So that means most of us are actually just smoking hopium, working 1 or 2 single points of contact. They're sending out proposals, thinking it's going to close more deals, but they're just fooling themselves, and they're creating a false forecast, which makes it very hard for the exec to actually properly forecast. The third thing you can do as well, and this is if you have obviously the power to do this, which is actually change your CRM stages to match the advanced framework. You can have each of the stages mapped out inside your CRM. This way, your team, it matches that qualification method as well, and it makes it far easier for you to actually forecast more accurately. This is something we do internally with our own company right here, and it's amazing when I made that switch. When I initially had what was the old way most people had, which is discovery, demo, proposal, whatever. And it's wild how when I actually use the advanced framework, how many deals don't even get past certain stages in which then I have confidence in saying those deals aren't going to close quite yet, or not, the time is not quite right. While these other ones were further along in the advanced framework, I'm like, chance pretty good. And reality is my accuracy is far greater with this framework. Now, the fourth thing is what you don't want to do is just going through your current pipeline one time, training your reps one time, updating your CRM stages. You want to make this a habit, and there should be weekly progression reviews where every single week you're walking through the deals with your team to see where they're at, and you're coaching and developing accordingly. This is how you start to increase their skills every single week so they know what to do and how to do it as well. And then the fifth thing you do as well is start tracking your forecast accuracy and see how it improves over time. I guarantee you, if you are really consistent with this implementation strategy, you will see your forecast actually drive up, but more importantly, you will see your team develop skills to be better business professionals. Now, here are a couple of common mistakes to avoid. So first off, advancing stages without proof. So you're just thinking, oh, cool, I think we have this, sounds good. And you're just kind of checking the box, right? Oh, I believe we have 3 stakeholders that probably believe in us as well. Good, that sounds good. That's a huge mistake. Do not do that. Number 2, confusing your buyer activity with seller activity. We mentioned this already, and there's some really great frameworks out there, Spin, Medic, MedPick, Spice, whatever, which is great from a salesperson's perspective. The reality is most people are confusing that seller activity with buyer activity, so do not do that. A third is skipping stages under the time pressure. So you're like, okay, I'm just gonna kind of jump ahead because of, I need to hit my number by a certain time frame. Do not do that. You're only fooling yourself, and you're creating a false pipeline and also a false forecast that makes it very, very hard. Majority of execs I talk to, if I asked them, what's the difference between forecast qualified versus pipeline qualified? It's shocking how it's often a very different number. That's really quite scary. The fourth big mistake I see is not getting multiple stakeholder validation. So this unfortunately happens far too often. We have these reps who are really good at that single stakeholder, maybe a low-level stakeholder, but they're not good at getting other stakeholders from other departments, multiple levels involved, which often leads to bloated pipelines, and you don't actually have enough consensus in the company to actually make a buying decision happen. So here's the reality. Your pipeline is either built on buyer reality or seller fantasy. There's no middle ground. And the advanced framework isn't just about forecast accuracy, though you'll probably see it jump to like 95% plus. It's about deals that close faster, objections that disappear, and pipeline reviews that actually drive revenue. Now, if you found this valuable and you need our help with implementing this, book a call below. And if you want to see how to run a quarterly business review that actually drives better forecast accuracy, then I'll see you in this next video right here.